Good morning to all those of you who've joined us for our Island Hopping in Greece webinar. I'm very excited to be delivering this program again. This is our second round since we had a couple of technical challenges the first time around. So thank you all for joining us this morning. And for those of you who are new to our webinars, you can ask any questions as we go along by scrolling to the bottom of your screen with your mouse and clicking on the button marked chat. And that's where you'll be able to ask any questions that you might have. Obviously, trying times for us in travel with all that's going on around the world with COVID-19. But you know, we are optimistic. We want to see the bright side of things. This it will pass like everything else that has come before. And so we're looking forward to a great travel season in hopefully this coming summer and into the fall. Yeah, so we're staying upbeat about things for the long term. So without further ado, just to introduce again, Wheel and Anchor, for those of you who are new to us, we are all about bringing travelers together. We are a Canadian company, and we're really focused on people who are already well-traveled and who are interested in programs that are specially curated for well-traveled people. So going a little bit outside the box and experiencing things that you don't get in ordinary tours, and doing it together with other like-minded travelers. And that's really the important part here is that when you travel with other people who have that desire and that quest for special experiences, it's completely different than when you're traveling with sort of ordinary tourists, if I can say it in that way. So let me introduce you now to the team. Oh, sorry, one more thing just about my vision. My goal for all of our members at Wheel and Anchor is about being well-traveled, which for me, and I think for many of our members, being well-traveled is more than just about checking off a box and saying, oh, I've been there, and you know, trying to do 10 countries in 2 weeks or something like that. But it's rather about really, again, that in-depth experience that we have, be connected to other people like you that are interested in learning about the world and experiencing all of the places, the people, the food, the drink that goes along with it. And that's what we're about at Wheel and Anchor. Joining me on our webinar today, I'd like to introduce our team, which of course, my name is Gordon. I'm the founder of Wheel and Anchor. I'm joined by Joel Curry, who is in the background there underneath the little Wheel and Anchor logo. He provides our technical support. Similarly, our senior trip specialist, Paula Zarnik, is in the background as well. And also on screen with me, I'm very happy to have back with us Giannis Oh, Giannis, I always get your last name messed up, but
don't worry about it.
Yeah,
Good
Giannis
morning, everyone.
Yeah, Janice is joining us all the way from Crete in Greece and is going to provide a little bit of local insight into what our program is all about. So welcome, Janice, and yeah,
thank you for hosting me again.
Exactly. So we are all about you as people are interested in exploring the Greek islands, this wonderful part of Europe that is like no other. I'm always mesmerized by these incredible islands. And I'm, of course, here to take you through our program that we're going to be offering in May of 21. And also as your fellow explorer, because some of these places I have visited before and some of them are new to me. And of course, we're talking about Greece. And so just getting a broad overview of Greece. As you know, it's a huge archipelago of islands. There's over 6,000 of them. Many of them are just relatively small rocks in the Mediterranean Sea. And so only a fraction of those are actually inhabited. And Crete, which is one of the focuses and frankly, one of the most beautiful islands in the Greek archipelago, is the largest. And as I say, we'll spend a few days there, and Giannis is going to tell us all about that. Santorini is, of course, probably the most well-known of the Greek islands and is truly, truly a beautiful spot to go. But we're also going to see Naxos. And of course, they get tons of sun down there in Greece, and it's something that we can always use a little bit more of as Canadians. So let's look at the map of our program. We are going to, of course, fly into Athens, and from there, we will fly on to CHANIA, which is another city on the big island of Crete. We'll spend a couple of days there before going overland to Heraklion, which is the principal city of Crete, and then continuing up by fast ferry to Santorini, and then on to Naxos, where we'll spend the last few days and then head back to Greece. So we'll get a good sense of a portion of some of the most beautiful of the Greek islands. So let's move on to our day-to-day itinerary. Of course, we're going to fly out. Our program begins on May 23rd. That'll mean flying out from Canada on the evening of the 22nd. Those members that are traveling from Toronto will have the ability to fly on a non-stop flight as of the current schedule into Athens, but there's great connections via other gateways in Canada. And once we arrive in Athens, we will have a layover, and then we'll continue right on and fly by a domestic flight. And we're going to end up in CHANIA, which is where Giannis is joining us from today. And so this is one of the places I haven't been before. So I've obviously done a lot of research. I've read a lot about it. I'm curious though, Giannis, your turn. What CHANIA is one of these places that a lot of tourists, particularly from North America, don't know much about. Tell us, what are the highlights? Like, what can we expect to be going, wow, when we arrive in CHANIA?
You mentioned this is the biggest island of Greece, and what makes Crete special is the people. So the people, the culture, and the history, the beauty of the nature are the highlights of our little paradise here. So CHANIA is one of the most beautiful cities of Crete, not only Crete, but some of the most beautiful of Greece. The most special thing is the Venetian harbor and the old town of CHANIA. Both of them are UNESCO protected monuments, UNESCO heritage monuments. So it's a very, very beautiful combination to walk in the water and see all these miracles of the Venetian architecture, the Ottoman architecture, and the Greek, of course. It's the jewel of Crete.
Yeah, those buildings that we see in the picture there, is that those look like remnants from that era? They look very unique in their design.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's you know, you will find a lot of combinations in the city of CHANIA. You will find a lot of different types of architecture coming from different eras. So this combination is what makes CHANIA so special, because many people attended to occupy this island, and every single one of them left their mark, and that's very nice to see today.
Yeah, fantastic. So we are going to stay in a lovely 4-star hotel for the few days that we spend in CHANIA. We've got some, Giannis has helped me pick out really some truly, boutique style hotels, which is how we like to travel, which is, not staying away from the big touristy hotels, but staying in places that are a little bit more special. And so I'm excited about that. The next day, we're going to get right in depth into the old town. What parts of CHANIA itself are going to be most interesting for our guests, do you think?
The parts of the old town, you mean, in the harbor?
Yeah, exactly. The parts of old town, the parts of everything that we're going to see on this full day when we're going to be touring around.
Look, the lighthouse of CHANIA is, of course, the jewel of the Venetian harbor. Then, of course, is the mosque from the Ottoman era, right opposite of the lighthouse. The arsenals, the dry docks from the Venetian era, and in the old town, a lot of churches, a lot of unique buildings, and nice areas, flower-decorated neighborhoods. A very, very nice place to have a walk and admire all these peace. It's something very, very special that you will understand when you come.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we're going to be, for me, always a highlight is meeting the locals. And on this day, we're going to be actually meeting a local family and having dinner with them. How's that going to go down? What can we expect to eat? It's what everybody always wants to know. What's the food going to be like?
What's the food? So this is a very special activity that you picked, because it's something that will introduce the people the Cretan way of life, not now, but in the past, the previous centuries. So you will experience old and forgotten handcrafts like weaving, or how they used to make the bread, or how they used to wash their clothes. We will cook all together. We will teach you, and we will make with you a totally hand-picked experience. How to cook in the Cretan way. We will taste a lot of the local delicacies and also spectacular Cretan wine. This is not only a cooking class, it is, I can say that it's a journey through the centuries. It's something like, it's a very special experience, and you will also experience the Cretan family. It's our family doing this. We are a family business. We're supporting family businesses, so it's something very, something that we love.
That's fantastic. I know that's always a highlight, and everybody always has a little something to take home, a memory of what life is actually like over there in Crete. So I'm super excited about it. The next day we're going to take off and explore a little bit of the area, this part of northwestern Crete, and I know that, again, particularly for visitors coming from North America, it's off the beaten track. I mean, lots of people stop in on their cruises going to Heraklion and so on, which we're looking forward to as well. But here it's all about looking at the local, the way of life, the food and the drink. The olive oil, of course, is something very special from Greece. What are the highlights here that we're going to see and do, and that is special and unique to Crete?
Look, it is again a similar experience to the previous day. You will see from close distance, you will experience yourself the way of life of the locals in the villages, not in the city. This is a lot different because you will be introduced to the local products, like the olive oil. The olive oil is the Cretan gold, how we call it. So it is, it is the most important product in the island. Crete is producing the 5% of the world's olive oil production, and
wow.
There are over 35 million olive trees in the island. So it's very interesting to explain you the procedure, how we're extracting the extra virgin olive oil, one of the finest qualities in the world. So, and experience the locals from very close distance. So this is something very, very special to every people that didn't experience something like this before.
Yeah, I find it always amazing and interesting to understand, particularly olive oil. It's made in different parts of the world, but of course, Greece is, as you say, known for some of the best quality. We're going to continue our journey overland, leaving out of CHANIA and heading to the east towards Heraklion. And I know that Crete, the drive will be quite beautiful because it's all mountainous, and we don't often think about that, but I imagine it'll be quite a scenic drive.
Crete looks more than the mainland than an island. It has a big mountain range, starting from one side of the island, goes all the way down to the other. So the route will be beautiful. I can guarantee that.
Yeah, no doubt. And along the way, we'll stop at Knossos, which is a very, very important site. And I believe it's of Minoan heritage, I guess you would say, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
This is the most ancient city of Europe. The first European inhabitants were the Minoans. Knossos was the king's landing, let's say, the area where the king Minos developed his civilization, the most important Minoan city. And the ruins, as you can see in the picture here, are in very, very good condition. Most of them, for example, the Queen's Chambers, the Chamber of the Throne, and in the Archaeological Museum of Heraklion that we will visit after Knossos, you will see most of the findings there. All the exhibits or the artifacts or the ceramics are very, very interesting and beautiful to see.
It's going to be really quite incredible to get a bit of an insight into this civilization. In the afternoon, we'll have time to just wander around Heraklion itself. I recall being there. There's a very neat fortress. It's called, well, it looks like it's pronounced Cool, the Cool Fortress, but it's Koules, or is it? Koules, yeah. It's the Koules fortress. but part of the experience here is being able to visit these cities a little bit and wander around on one's own, and I think we've allowed for that in the program. We'll spend a night in Heraklion itself. I think quite a vibrant city. Again, it's not my experience, Yanis. It's very different from many of the Greek islands because it's quite a busy town, a busy port. And yeah, so that will be no doubt again a different flavor than we'll get on the coming days, where we'll head over then to Santorini. So we get on these super fast ferries, right? It's almost like a hydrofoil.
Yeah, you'll be in 2 hours in Santorini. It's very, very quick. You're entering and getting out of the boat very quickly, and yeah, it's a very, very simple and easy travel.
And then boom, we arrive in Santorini, and Santorini, I think at least the name needs no introduction to our members. Everybody will have heard of it. Probably they've seen a picture, a postcard that looks with these, famous white houses with the blue roofs on it. But I'm curious, why is Santorini so famous, or how did it? Do you know what about it? I mean, other than its beauty, but how did it become such? They call it the supermodel of the Greek islands.
Chinese, No, Santorini has a very unique natural beauty. It has the volcano and a volcanic volcanic soil over there, and spectacular views. The caldera. When I talk about the caldera, I mean Fyra, which is the center of Santorini, Fyrostefani, Imerovigli, and other areas in Santorini, that cliff, let's say. So from that cliff, the views are beautiful. From Ia, the most famous city of Santorini, you can see and enjoy the spectacular sunsets. The sunsets for Santorini, and for me personally, it's the best sunset I've ever seen in my life, even if we have good sunsets here as well. But
well, yeah. That's just it, and so we're going to obviously just like in other places, we'll have ample time to sort of wander around Santorini itself. Once again, you've helped us to select a lovely hotel, but for me, one of the big highlights of this program, because the way we've designed it, is we're spending a couple of days itself, can go beyond what sort of the ordinary cruise passengers. They arrive in the morning, they leave in the evening. They only get a little sense of it. You mentioned the caldera. What other things are we going to see that you wouldn't ordinarily see on if you were just stopping in on a cruise ship for the day?
Santorini has something very special, and this is the wine. I talked about the volcanic soil of Santorini. So this is giving the wines and the grapes actually a very special taste, and they're growing some indigenous varieties there. They're producing excellent wines. So it is wine tasting, and if we want wandering around the wineries of the island, this is something very special that you can do in Santorini. Also in Santorini, we discovered another ancient civilization, and all the excavations in Akrotiri, in the one side of the island, are beautiful. A place that you can visit, and is very, very close to the Red Beach, and another nice area to visit, just to see if you don't want to swim. But people are able to swim at the Red Beach as well. So Santorini is more or less known about the wonderful views, the wines, the fava beans that they're producing, and the small tomatoes. So it has some local products, special local products that you can find only there.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's what I find the most interesting, is when you can try something, sample something that you can't get anywhere else. And of course, we'll end up at this Oya spot to capture this sunset, which this is, for me, I'm a sunset fanatic. I love to witness these spots. And I take it we can have a glass of wine at one of these terraces up here and take this all in, and should be a terrific experience. So we've got so other than our tour that we have in the program, we'll get acquainted with some of these other sides of Santorini. We've left again a day here at leisure. And I know you've told me about some of the options that we can do. I think there is, you can do a boat cruise around the caldera. Is that right?
That's right. Many options about cruises, Santorini, private cruises or group cruises with catamarans. You can even watch the sunset from the boat because there are sunset cruises. And also, there are other places to visit in the small Santorini mainland, like some villages that you can see and experience nice restaurants that they are having excellent food. Um, Local small shops that they're selling handmade souvenirs, some small family businesses, you know.
Perfect.
What what makes Santorini in Greece so special is again, I will say that again, it's the people.
Yeah, well, that's just it. I mean, my experience has always been is that, you know, all of these Greek places, you come in and they make you feel like family. They welcome you
Yep.
in, and so I'm
Hospitality is a Greek word, philoxenia.
okay, perfect. Well, there you go. I have to remember that.
Sure.
Yeah, so we'll have some lovely days in Santorini, sampling that local wine and all of the delicious food, and again, mostly the scenery, which will just blow your mind if for those who have not been to Greece before. So we'll continue from there up to Naxos. And what for me in putting this program together was important that we not only see the you know the part of Greece that's famous and well known, places like Heraklion and Santorini and so on, but that we go a little bit outside that box. And Naxos is one of those islands that will be less familiar to our members. In fact, some magazines and so on have called it the most underrated island in Greece. So tell me about that, and what is it that makes Naxos so special and so worth visiting?
All Greek islands are beautiful. Each island has special things to see and do. I know there is no doubt about it. But we selected Naxos because it is a large island, one of the largest island of the Aegean Sea, and very, very underrated, as you said. We could visit other islands like Mykonos, for example, which is one of the most famous again. But you can find things in Naxos that you cannot find in other islands. Naxos is very, very special for its mainland. A lot of islands are quite small in Aegean Sea parts, and the island is providing a lot of options in the mainland. Naxos is also famous for its cheese. It's called the Naxian Graviera. So it will be a very, very good experience and a very special experience to see how they're producing the cheese, how they're making this is famous Naxian Graviera. The island also has a lot of beautiful beaches and a lot of charming landscapes. It is very well known for its large, the large ancient door. You'll definitely, if you see any photo of Naxos, you will definitely recognize it. It looks like a big door in the middle of nowhere. But yes, the people of Naxos and the options that Naxos is giving, for example, we'll go to Paros in one day of the trip.
Right.
So yeah, from Naxos, Paros is very, very it's nearby. So you can hope in other islands for one-day trips, and that's something that you can do in Naxos. And the ferry connection is very good.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's a good point is that, you know, we'll spend a couple of days in Naxos. Once again, you know, my philosophy's been, and how we've done this trip is that we stay a few nights in each of these towns in order to really, in these islands, in order to get a real sense of it. And so we're going to go to Paros for a full day. And Paros is quite close by, but even then, even less visited, I think, than Naxos by
Right.
you know, by tourists. Yeah.
By tourists, and especially foreign tourists. The Aegean Islands are chosen from the Greeks, more or less. Paros, for example, is a famous destination for Greeks, but not so much for foreign tourists.
Yeah.
So that makes that it's keeping the island, you know, more pure, something new to explore, something new to see. Paros is also a big island. It's, as we said before, very close to Naxos. and we'll spend a full day there because we're arriving with a morning ship, and
Right.
we're leaving Paros with a night ship. So we'll have all day long to see Paros and the mainland, and also have some free time after the lunch for the people to explore the island themselves.
Yeah.
So that is giving them a lot of time to, you know, experience the place themselves.
Again, that's the part that I like, is because, as you say, there's so few overseas tourists in there, and this is when you really get the flavor of a Greek island. I mean, in Santorini, we'll probably see other guests from all over the world, but in
Sure.
Paros, as you say, it's when you're surrounded by locals or local other visitors from other parts of Greece, is when you really get a sense of what the country is like, what the islands are like.
Mhm.
That's the exciting part, and then we'll have dinner right in Paros, and as you say, we'll head back later in the evening. So maybe even a little digestive time for a later evening cocktail, which um,
Sure.
also is part of the experience over there. So yeah, so
Definitely a sunset cocktail.
definitely a sunset cocktail, more than a few, and some
Sure.
glasses of wine. We'll have another full day in Naxos. You mentioned the beaches, which are truly beautiful, and we often, as I say, if I've been to Greece on a cruise boat before, and you barely have time to do any experience swimming or to experience these wonderful beaches. So I think it's a nice way. This will be our last full day in the Greek islands. Um, and I know a question for sure is going to be asked about what the water temperature is like. We're going to be here at the very end of May, beginning of June. What can we expect there? Can we actually go swimming?
Yes, you can, of course. In Greece we have something that we call winter, of course, but it's it's more for you. It's more or less like a summer. But
Yeah,
and even in the end of May, beginning of, especially then, the water temperature is it's perfect. So you can
yeah,
swim, you can enjoy the sea, you can enjoy the beaches. I have no doubt about it.
yeah,
We're starting
exactly.
to swim from March.
Yeah, well, there you go. So we're in the beginning of June. I know here in Canada, it's like this is the time of the year where only the bravest jump in the water, because it's still quite chilly. But the Mediterranean, the Aegean Sea, because of all the islands as well, is going to be super warm. We'll be able to also get on a boat as well for those that wish, and tour some of the coastline. For me, and I'm sure you'll agree, it's really the coastline, and seeing these islands from the sea is truly something spectacular, because they're I know in my experience the Greek islands are like no other place, in terms of seeing from one to the other, and the turquoise blue waters of the Mediterranean and Aegean Sea.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I'm confirming that.
Okay, good. Well, that's good. As long as you're confirming, that'll make me happy. That'll give our members a lot of confidence in this great trip.
Yeah, you're not
From
lying.
okay, good. From Naxos, we'll take a ferry back to Athens. Again, it's not. I think it's not a super long trip, is it?
No, it isn't. It's if I'm not wrong, if I remember well, it's something like 4 to 5 hours. So
Minute,
it's quite quick. Yeah,
45
it's not
minutes.
like Iraq and Santorini that quick, but it's it's a speedboat again.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll be back in Athens, of course, the capital of Greece, a magnificent and vibrant city that has, I think, come a long way in the last few years. There was some economic challenges there before, but Athens has really bounced back, from what I understand.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Athens is beautiful, especially the center. It should be in the everyone's bucket list to see Parthenon, Acropolis, and the
Exactly.
museum. There's a local museum. The Museum
And
of Acropolis is one of the most modern museums in the world, and a lot of nice things to see and experience in the narrow streets of Monastiraki, Plaka, and Thysio in the center of Athens.
Monastiraki. Yeah, I remember wandering around these little narrow streets in Monastiraki, and
Yeah.
it's truly magnificent. And standing there, we'll be there for the evening. We'll have our farewell dinner here in Athens. Maybe if we're lucky, we'll have a view up to the Parthenon, which is all lit up, and I think a great end to this marvelous trip around Greece. And that will take us to the end of the program. I'm sure some of our members will stay a couple of extra days in Athens, particularly those who haven't been to Greece before. It's worth doing, and it's, you know, Athens is quite easy to navigate on your own and see all of these ancient sites that there are to see. So let me take you through a few of the details of our program before I get to the questions that have come in. So this program, again, May of 2021. So it's over a year from now. So lots of time to look forward to that. By then, I think the world will have returned back to normal, I'm sure long before then. And so again, the program will be, and again, the dates here, the dates here are a little out of sync. So this program is running from May the 23rd until June the 4th. And so the price will be $59.70 Canadian dollars, and is for per person based on double occupancy, and $66.70 in single occupancy. What that includes, of course, as with all of our programs, all of our local ground and ferry transportation, our flight to get down to CHANIA from Athens, lovely hotels that we've selected, and again, typically, as with many of my programs, we do lunch, either lunch or dinner daily, because there's you always get lots to eat when you go out for a meal in Greece. So
well, what about the food in Greece?
yeah, you can never get enough. You'll come back with a couple extra kilos. As always, our airfare is separate, so that you can choose the best routing that suits for you, and the insurance, which we highly recommend, and any of the other sort of little optional things that we might do along the way. And that's what we're known for at Wheel and Anchor, is we often do things on the fly while we're going along, and we seize the opportunity to do something that is part of the flexibility of our program. In terms of airfare, looking at what we're looking at right now, here you get an idea of what the airfares are from different spots in Canada. Actually, I was checking for based on May of this year, and if we time it right, which I'm sure we will, the flights can be as low as like $700 or $800 out of Toronto, and as low as about $900 out of Vancouver. So really quite reasonable, and we can of course assist you to get from any place in Canada. So now it's time to respond to a few questions. So if you do have a question about this program, please chat box. A couple of questions that were posed from members that weren't able to join us for the live webinar this morning, and I see a couple of more have popped in. So if you do have a question, let me know. Ted asked, this came in before, if the Mediterranean is warm enough to swim. I think Yanis answered that question quite well. What do we expect it'll be? I think my recollection is in end of May, it's maybe 22, 23 degrees. Does that sound about right? Yeah,
definitely.
So,
and it is always, you know, it is always depending where you're swimming. For example, in the south side of Crete, the water is cooler, but in the north side of Crete, it's very, very warm. It's the same for the other islands as well.
Yeah, I think for Santorini, once you get into that cluster of islands, the water warms up a bit. So it's for Canadian standards, very swimmable in end of May, beginning of June. I had a question here from Tracy, who said, I'm vegan. Can they accommodate me? I think it shouldn't be a problem, Yanis, but I think it's a good question. How are you with folks that have dietary choices or restrictions that, you know,
It's, yeah, of course, we can accommodate vegan diets, but because anyway, the Cretan diet and the Greek diet is based on a lot of vegetables. Yeah. Things from the products from the Mother Nature, so it's something that we can definitely cover, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I knew that. I knew there's a lot of veggie in Greek cuisine, which partly makes it so delicious. Because I know for me, I've always learned new ways to cook vegetables that make them taste so delicious. So that's a positive thing. So Tracy, you'll be well looked after. Judy asked if it is if you can extend in Athens, or if it's worthwhile to extend in Athens, is what Judy's written here. I think absolutely it's worthwhile to extend in Athens. I think it's a vibrant, exciting city. As with all our programs, you can fly in a day or two early, you can leave later. We like for our members to be able to be flexible, and you can continue on to do another trip, which brings me to the next question that Jean has asked, if it can be piggybacked with our Sicily-Malta trip, which interestingly happens immediately before this. And I did actually plan it on purpose that way. So for those that are interested in going to Sicily and on our Sicily and Malta program, which happens in the 2 weeks before this trip, most definitely you can fly from Malta directly to Athens and then continue on this trip. I think there's a day or two in between, but that is the plan. And similarly, you can stay on in Athens or continue on to another city in Europe. Airfares are quite flexible that allow you to fly into one and out of another. So we'd be happy to consult with you on that. Kay asked about the ferry crossings. How rough is the sea? I think that's a good question, actually, Giannis. At this time of the year, for those that might get a little bit seasick, what do you think? How rough could it be?
You know, I won't lie, and I cannot predict the weather, obviously, but generally the Greece is and the islands are quite windy places. But I experienced many times myself going to these islands, and I never felt that sick, and you know, from the winds. The speedboats might have some up and downs, but it will be a quick trip, and you won't stay for a long time in the boat. Most of the time the seas are calm, but there's a good chance for winds. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, exactly. I think you made an interesting point about the speedboats, because my experience has been is that the speedboats can be bumpy because they kind of like skip across the waves. But it's not the same effect, and my impression is that you get less seasick from that kind of an experience than you do by the up and down of crossing the big ocean. So as my advice always is to any members who have a concern that they might have an issue with motion sickness, you have these bracelets now, the patches. There are different remedies that I find work in the vast majority of cases. So I honestly think that for most people, there's a way to mitigate any motion sickness that you might otherwise feel. So so good. I think that's good. I don't see any other questions here. Of course, we are always here to answer your questions. Myself, Paula, and any of the other members of our team. So please send us your questions, send us your interest. And this program is off in May of 2021. So you can consider booking on. I think we'll end up with a full gamut of people going on this trip based on the number of inquiries we've had so far. So we welcome your participation. Giannis, thank you so much for joining us once again and sharing us all about the Greek islands. It's been a pleasure to have you again. And I know all of our members who are coming are excited to meet you and seeing your beautiful island of Crete.
Of course, and I'm waiting to host them. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for joining us. Have a wonderful day, and we look forward to catching you soon.